Hey, this is Chapter 10 in our textbook, Understanding and Implementing the 16 Firefighter Life Safety Initiatives. That's a long title. And I just wanted to, this is Chapter 4, and it evolves around Life Safety Initiative number 3. I'm not sure why this book was written the way it was. I wish they had put them it would have been easier for me to go from initiative 1 to 16, but they've kind of lumped them all together. And as you can see, they have different authors for each of these chapters. So it is great to get different insight into different perspectives from different individuals and also even just different writing styles. So this chapter is only 10 pages long, but man, it is, to me, a really important one. Life Safety Initiative number 9, thoroughly investigate all firefighter fatalities, injuries, and near misses. And I think where we might miss the boat a little bit in our day-to-day operations is the concept of investigating near misses and what constitutes a near miss. And so I think that we probably do a better job in the fire service. I've never been in a department that had a fatality, a line of duty death. I have been in departments where there was serious injuries and they were investigated. But it's that whole near miss, by the luck of the draw, by the skin of your teeth, whatever the situation might be. That we may not do as good a job as reporting those things. On the first page of the book, page 63 at the bottom, it talks about the whole concept of data. And this is a concept that I'm really driving home with students, that if we don't have data about these fire deaths, about these injuries, about accidents that occur, about near misses, then it's hard to figure out what we're doing wrong. And so that is why having sources and resources that collect this data and perhaps critique the data and review the data are very valuable to us. Your book talks about, you look at the top of page 64, direct and indirect costs of injuries and accidents. Medical bills, overtime pay, backfill, where you've got to have, somebody's out on light duty and you have to pay overtime for that, or temporary employees. Apparatus and equipment repair, think about vehicle incidents and accidents that occur. The truck's out of service. And for small departments, when the truck's out of service, that's a really big issue. It really can be very dangerous for everyone. So, these are injuries and accidents to firefighters. They limit our ability to serve the public. We may be down a person, we may be shuffling people around, and we may not have the equipment that we need to respond in each of these situations. So learning about the causes, and I say causes plural, is very important. There's a quote from OSHA that talks about accidents generally and basically is saying that for each incident or each accident that results in an injury, say, there's a whole host of issues or problems that could have altered the course of that. We use that same concept or maybe we stole that same concept in prevention work. If you look at how did this fire start, and we start looking at all the different things that people did and where we could have intervened in a situation, we come up with lots of different things that could be done differently that could have altered the outcome to a more positive outcome or a less severe outcome for that individual or in that circumstance. There may be indirect causes of these injuries or accidents. But the interesting thing that they state is that most, if not all, accidents are preventable by removing one or more of those causes, by intervening or changing that altering our behavior in some form or fashion. And I think that's the important thing that we need to discover is what are those things that could alter the outcome of this particular event, so that it's rarely a single cause. The book uses an example of a firefighter with a hand injury. Did the fire department have a policy? Was the policy widely known? Were the people enforced? Was the policy, did people know about it? Did the firefighter have adequate gloves? Were they NFPA approved, or were they at one time NFPA approved and very worn? Were they comfortable and functional? Was it damaged or contaminated? Could the firefighter complete the task while wearing this gloves? Many times we are so tempted. I know in recruit training, it is so hard to keep that glove on when if you took that glove off, you could do this task much easier. And the whole point in keeping your glove on is because in that hostile environment, you need to keep your glove on to do this. So, and was it the firefighter's attitude? Did he just ignore the training? Did he ignore the SOP? What was that individual's attitude? So there's a lot of factors that can affect that, and we need to investigate what those are so that we can train and prepare and create dialogue, if nothing else. I was going to say create SOPs, but sometimes we SOP ourselves to death. But certainly, without this incident and near miss investigation and the data that it produces, we're not going to know the full scope of a problem. And so there are some data tracking agencies some of which we have seen before. The National Fire Protection Association has a fire investigation unit. They will investigate firefighter deaths and injuries. They also investigate large loss fires, especially where there is a sprinkler system in place. There is an investigation website that's listed in your book. It's under the research. And, in the book, it tells you that they collect, analyze, and report fire experience data on different situations. So a lot of their information is kind of technical, is my experience anyway. They also have information, of course, about the fire problem in the United States, what are the causes of those, et cetera, et cetera. NIOSH, the National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, has its own investigation portal on its website. They are part of the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control. And so again, their website is listed there, cdc.gov/NIOSH/fire. NIOSH reports are good, and I can't remember if I'm getting all my courses confused. I can't remember if I've asked you to look at a NIOSH report, but we may do that later in this course, to look at it and see what they decide. Some of their information is pretty standard. Usually there's a communications problem. There may be a personnel problem. There may be an SCBA problem. There may be a training problem. But they make recommendations overall. And so these are good study guides or case studies for folks in the fire service. If you're looking for a training topic, pull an NIOSH report and look at it and train and then compare to the way that your department operates. Another data tracking place is the U.S. Fire Administration. They do a lot of tracking through their INFIRS report about firefighters' deaths and injuries. But I don't believe, and I should probably know this, but I do not believe that any of these so far track this near miss data that I think is so valuable. So the U.S. Fire Administration does have that information as well that they obtain through our INFIRS reports that we submit. But there is a National Firefighter Near Miss Reporting System. It was introduced in 2005. It's administered by the International Association of Fire Chiefs. And as part of the activity for this unit, I'm asking you to go to that website, look at the stuff that's there, and then I've given you an assignment about a particular report of the week, I think is what they call it. But these are near misses. They also have on the IAFC also has on their website a guide for investigation of line of duty deaths, as kind of a roadmap of what you need to do during these. In this firefighter near miss website, it's voluntary. Your book compares it to a near miss reporting from the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration. You can report it as a witness. You can report it as someone that's involved. It doesn't have to be, there's not a formal reporting process as far as it has to go through your training officer or through your chief or anything like that. But you can also search them and also use them for training as well. Anytime there is an incident, the agency has a responsibility to investigate. And many times, especially in the circumstances of a firefighter death, the people in the department may not be the best ones to investigate. It's very emotional and very stressful. No one wants to point a finger at anybody. And that's what I believe, that sometimes people think that that's what this is all about. It's not about placing blame. I've said it before, and you'll hear me say it again, that to me, blame and placing blame is a wasted effort. But we do need to find out what the cause was so that we can, especially in a firefighter death, we can learn and have that death not be in vain, is kind of the way I look at it. So it's not about placing blame. It's about an after-action report. And we talk in one of the bachelor's level courses about this whole concept of an after-action review or an after-action report to be a very honest, open type environment. No blame, no accusations, nothing like that. It's a discovery process to discover who did what, why this happened, and how we can prevent it from happening again. One of the things that your book mentions at the very bottom of page 72 is about behavioral health. This is a big area that I am interested in that we don't think about this a lot. That many times we look at the implications of the event, the death or the injury or the near miss, but not the behavioral aspect of it, of the unseen implications of this event. Follow-up interviews, having your critical incident stress teams come in, doing a hot wash, that kind of thing is very important in these major incidents. I have been involved in at least 3 of those, and I'm not sure the first one was handled well. We've learned a lot over the years, but the second and the third were handled very well, as far as the investigation itself, but also helping people work through that whole process. And so I guess the takeaway, and I want to mention one thing that your book does not. There is a website called firefighterclosecalls.com, not to be confused with firefighternearmiss.com. Closecalls.com is a website that is run by Chief Billy Goldfeder, who is just, I can't even tell you what department he's with, but he's got a big name in firefighter safety. And he administers this site called Close Calls. It's also, if you've ever heard of, the secret list. And so you'll find information. It's not rumor or gossip, but many times, when we, the old saying, it's on the internet, it must be true. Well, maybe it's not, or we don't have all the facts, but he puts a lot of things out there. It's something you can report to. You can report a near miss. I think he was one of the first ones to kind of create this concept of near miss reporting, because people that get by the skin of their teeth, to me, that may be a bigger, especially behavioral issue or a psychological issue than if I had been physically injured. But those are just as important as the ones that do result in injuries and the ones that do result in death. So I'll put that website as a link, again, firefighterclosecalls.com. But just recognize that it's not a validated website, maybe. I'm not saying that anything on there's wrong. I'm not saying that at all. But it is, you'll see that when you look at the websites, you'll see the difference between firefighter near miss and the firefighter close calls websites. So I've given you an activity to look at firefighter close calls. If you want to go to NIOSH, that link is in the book as well. Look at those sites and see what kind of information that you find there. But just remember that it's all about collecting data so that we can have better turnout gear, we can have better SOPs, better standard procedures, better equipment, better apparatus, better training, more effective. It's not just about saying somebody did something wrong. So recognize that and then look at those things and do that activity. So data, always keep that data. Keep that in mind, because I hope that we're going to have a special guest instructor virtually in the next month or two to talk to us about data collection. So keep that in mind. Thanks so much and have a great day.